Hello and welcome along to Early Kickoff. It's 4 consecutive League Cup triumphs for Manchester City as they target the treble.
Yes, Phil Foden excelled once again, but should he start for England at the Euros? We debate who should make up those front three positions for Gareth Southgate's side this summer. Also, another trophy for Pep Guardiola. Jamie Redknapp has called him the greatest manager of all time. We'll be debating who is indeed the greatest. Also, Manchester United fans made their feelings pretty known towards the Glazers with protests this week. We'll assess an eventful 7 days at Old Trafford.
And we are joined by Flex from United Stand and from Sky Sports, Anton Tolui as well. Good morning, to you both, you magnificent gentlemen. Right, I know, Flex, that will be hard for you to hear about Manchester City with that treble still being on. So I will start with you, Anton. We know the quadruple's gone, but can anyone stop Manchester City winning that treble?
I mean, it's a huge week for Manchester City, isn't it? With the Champions League game coming up against Paris Saint-Germain. And for me, that is what is going to dictate Manchester City's success now. We know Pep Guardiola is creating a legacy at Manchester City this season, but they've got to go and win the big one. Pep Guardiola hasn't won it for a decade. So for me, that's the fascinating thing. Can he go and win the Champions League?
Now, Jamie Redknapp said that Pep Guardiola is, get this, the greatest manager ever, Flex. I have a feeling you might have something to say about that. What do you think?
Well, I didn't know that Sir Alex Ferguson was head coach in the NBA and didn't, make his way in football. I didn't know that. I don't know. We can't just forget Sir Alex Ferguson. And look, obviously, I'm going to come to the argument, or to the table actually, because it's not an argument actually, with my Manchester United hat on. I have to say, with what Pep Guardiola's done in football, he is a close second. And is there a chance he could overtake Sir Alex Ferguson? I guess the jury's going to be out. No Manchester United fan would ever think that. I think with what Fergie brought to us and for how long he kept building teams within the Premier League, it just means so much to us. Do I respect what Guardiola's done in football? Of course. Do I hate seeing it, especially now it's at Manchester City? It was a beautiful thing before he went to Manchester City. You look at the football he plays, the trophies he was winning, and it was a lot easier to watch. But now he's obviously at Manchester City. It is difficult. I think what Anton says is spot on, though. It's all about this Champions League at Manchester City, because one thing and another thing, guys, you just spoke about this treble, right? Yeah, he's going to win the treble, but he's not going to win the treble if he does do it. The treble. He has done that before, but not in the Premier League. So we're hanging on to that as well. So the proper treble is now off the cards. Now Chelsea beat them in the semi-final of the FA Cup. And they've got to get over this Champions League hoodoo, Manchester City. The furthest they've ever got is the semi-finals, okay? They're about to play in the semi-finals, and I do believe PSG will give them a hell of a good game. They are capable of beating them. But Manchester City went out to, what was it, Lyon last year. They've been out to Tottenham. They've been out to Liverpool, Monaco, I think it is. So, they usually do stumble at this point. So we'll see what they're really made of at this stage now.
You can uncross those fingers, Flex, if you want. Anton, I will just go back to you on that, because Micah Richards balanced it out by saying exactly what you both said, that actually Pep Guardiola still needs to win the Champions League at Manchester City. But given that Guardiola's done well in Spain and done well in Germany and come over to England doing well too, can you see that argument from Jamie Redknapp that he's he actually said he is the best?
I can see it, because he's also looking at it from a point of view of what he brings, a kind of football aesthetic as well, doesn't he? He doesn't just doesn't just guarantee success. He guarantees a really attractive form of football that affects the DNA of an entire football club. That's what he helped, continue the legacy at Barcelona. He helped, win championships consistently at Bayern Munich, but he didn't win the Champions League at Bayern Munich, and he hasn't won the Champions League with Manchester City. This is obviously their best chance yet. The evolution of this Manchester City side has been fascinating over the last few seasons, because it's been slow progress, adding 1 or 2 pieces every season. This is what they've been building towards, and let's see whether they can do it.
Flex, you had Jose Mourinho at Manchester United. OK, Tottenham yesterday, just the one shot on target in the game. What would Jose Mourinho have done differently? Now we're turning our attention to Tottenham here. They lost under Ryan Mason. What would Mourinho have done differently?
He probably would have blamed people more so than Ryan Mason did. I thought he was quite complimentary of his players. But really, though, before the game, He would have given him a more of a stern test. I think the game was 1-0, but it was almost like a 1-0 battering, wasn't it? The only thing missing from Manchester City's performance was more goals to show how dominant they actually were. I think they would have been a lot harder to break down or to get at potentially under Mourinho. Yes, I know it was kind of falling apart. They wasn't doing too well. And it's a weird one as to why they sacked him just before the Carabao Cup final. Even if they weren't going to, keep him for next season, I don't know whether it was if Mourinho's in a certain position, he can't get sacked, or it might cost this much money to sack him if he's in this position. Maybe there was a little bit of that going on, because I cannot believe for the life of me that Spurs are in a position to get their hands on their first silverware for a long time. And you've got Mourinho, who, listen, I'm not too fond of, obviously, because of the Manchester United situation and what he did there. But the respect for Mourinho in a cup final, when he has to get the job done, however he may stink the place out, doing it in the process, is there. And I think they really shot themselves in the foot there, the hierarchy at Spurs. I couldn't understand why. So I definitely think he would have made Spurs a bit more resilient, even though it wouldn't have been great to watch, but I don't think it would have been as easy for Manchester City.
Now, Anton, as Flex said, it's been an awfully long time since Tottenham have won a trophy, over a decade. So, it's not going to happen for them this season. So what does that mean for their key man, their star striker, Harry Kane, do you think?
Look, to be brutally honest, I think there's so many other factors at play here about Harry Kane's future. He's kind of almost lost. If Harry Kane wants to leave Tottenham, he's going to have to push to leave Tottenham, because the striker market this summer is absolutely wild for elite strikers. You've got Lionel Messi out of contract. We all know Erling Haaland is available because his agent's done a European tour during a pandemic. and entering the last year of their contracts are the following four players: Cristiano Ronaldo, Paulo Dybala, Neymar, and Kylian Mbappe. So there's a huge striker market available potentially at the very elite level when clubs haven't got much money to spend. Barcelona are £1 billion in debt. Real Madrid aren't making signings. Bayern Munich have Robert Lewandowski. They don't need a striker. What does that all mean for Harry Kane? If he wants to leave Tottenham, he's going to have to not only push for a move, but also a move probably to a Premier League rival. Can you see Daniel Levy doing that? I really can't.
Yeah, well, when Good Morning Transfers comes back in this summer, the odds on Harry Kane being the top story on that first show are 100 to 1 on at this stage. Me offering those odds, by the way. Flex, is he perfect for Manchester United, Harry Kane? I asked that because Solskjaer quite likes a very mobile forward who can also play out wide, which is maybe why it didn't happen with Romelu Lukaku. So when people say Manchester United should go for Kane, is he a Solskjaer-type striker?
Well, you look at what Cavani brings as a traditional number 9, and that is kind of what Solskjaer does look for in his striker as well. He's spoken loads about Cavani's movement, his willingness to get on the end of things, having that kind of striker's know-how. When Martial was playing game after game, he always wants Tony to get the tap-ins, the 6-yard kind of goals as a striker, not just the spectacular ones. So I think Solskjaer does have the need and the want for a more traditional number 9, which Harry Kane would definitely fit the bill. What we talk about in United Stand is that a lot, and Manchester United fans sometimes say, Flex, he's always out for about 8 weeks a season. He's got this dodgy ankle. He's a bit injury prone. You look at the age as well. My thing with that is I do understand that, but it's never stopped him scoring a hell of a lot of goals, has it? It's not like we're saying that Harry Kane doesn't break through the 20-goal mark very often because he misses too many games. So for me, I think he would be perfect for Manchester United. He does bring more than just goals, as we've seen. He's also been Tottenham's lead assist maker as well. He can get involved. And versus a Haaland situation where, yes, it would be a lot of money as well. But I also see Haaland with the agent of Mino Raiola being a little bit like a bit of a Zlatan Ibrahimovic, kind of club hopping after every couple of years, where I think we could get Harry Kane in his prime, and he's that good. He could be doing what Lewandowski's doing at that age when he is. So, yeah, I definitely would take a punt on Harry Kane. However, I think Anton's right. It's very, very difficult for him to move. And Daniel Levy being Daniel Levy, and he's definitely not going to want to sell to a Premier League club. So Harry Kane might have to be quite forceful if he wants to get out of Spurs.
Now, Anton, someone who would have been watching that cup final yesterday with keen interest would have been Gareth Southgate, England manager. Of course, there were quite a few key players involved, Foden and Sterling for Manchester City, Rashford for United as well, of course, and Harry Kane for Tottenham. How does Gareth Southgate fit all of those attacking players into his Euro 2020 squad, or is it a case where one of them, two of them even, miss out?
I'll tell you something. Well, Gareth Southgate will tell you it's a squad game and he's very happy to have all these options, blah, 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 blah. But I'll tell you something. The best thing to happen to Raheem Sterling over the last couple of months are injuries to Jack Grealish and Jadon Sancho. They've barely kicked a ball for a month. Therefore, there isn't as much pressure on Gareth Southgate to drop Raheem Sterling as there may well be if Jack Grealish was absolutely balling right now. Jadon Sancho's only just come back from a niggling injury. We haven't seen him hit the highs of last season, but he's still got 10 assists in Bundesliga this season. He's still playing at a really high level. So, yeah, you're right. It's not just the initial team selection, it's the squad selection. But yeah, Raheem Sterling is so close to Gareth Southgate. They've got a really, really, really tight relationship. And there is absolutely no way this close to a major tournament, Raheem Sterling is getting dropped unless something major happens between now and June.
Yeah, get them all. I was going to say get them all on the plane, but I think, Flex, it's a case of get them all on the bus this summer with England's games.
I said train, yeah.
At Wembley.
Get them on the underground.
But Flex, look at those attacking options for Gareth Southgate. I mean, we didn't think we would get this in England. We're known for having very solid defenders. You think of Adams, Campbell, Ferdinand. For all those years, Southgate himself, in fact. But all these attacking options, like Foden, who might end up having to play wide. Grealish, there's talk he might not make it. James Maddison, we haven't even mentioned there. Mason Mount, last time I did this show, we were saying, is Mason Mount a definite starter? There are so many attacking players. That can only be a good thing.
Can only be a good thing. It is a selection headache for Gareth Southgate, but also he has to use his tools to the best of his abilities. I think he has to find a way to play front foot attacking football, not conservative, not kind of just trying to sit tight and nick games. I think he needs to let these young players go and express themselves. Yes, I'm not saying go gung-ho and forget about the defensive side of the game, but I think in football, I think it's been complicated far too much just in general with this conservative type of play, and everything's very tactical, and I would like to just see it get back to old school football and just using the best tools that you have. And just on Phil Foden, I mean, what a player. This is about the national team right now, so forget Manchester United, Manchester City. What a young player and what a level he's performing at. That's what it's about. Forget that he's actually young. Just the level that he's performing at. It does help the fact that Jack Grealish has been injured. I understand that. That is true. Mason Mount's been playing at an incredible level. But I would like to see Gareth do something in terms of just play who's banging form going into it. Look, Marcus Rashford is a Manchester United player. I could be biased and say that he has to play every single game, but I'm actually worried for Marcus Rashford. He's nursing an injury right now. He's looking a little bit off the pace at Manchester United. They're trying to manage him. So is he as in form as Phil Foden right now? No, he's not. So the best thing for England, if there was a game tomorrow of great magnitude, would probably to be starting Phil Foden if he's ready to go, he's prime, he's proper, and he's in the form of his life. That's not saying Rashford should not be on the train, though. He should definitely be on the train. But it's got to be off form, and I think Gareth Southgate needs to do that rather than just pick favourites.
Let's get our waistcoats on and start singing It's Coming Home. Right.
Waistcoat Wednesday's coming back, mate.
I hope so. Right, coming next, the Premier League have announced the first two inductees into the Hall of Fame in Thierry Henry and Alan Shearer. We debate who else should be inducted next.
We're all in. We're all in to kick it out.
Move it on to a bit more of a serious subject, Anton and Flex, and you would have seen that there's been talk of a social media boycott by English football, and of course there's been a lot said about football needing to do more when it comes to fighting racism, particularly with how quickly the European Super League was aborted. Flex, what are your opinions on this? Is this a boycott that you would welcome, particularly as someone who has yourself been racially abused online?
It's good to see the conversation continuing. I know there's been talk of the knee or not the knee and when should it stop. But the fact is that the fact that the people are still talking about should it carry on or should it not, we're here having a conversation about it. I know Thierry Henry led that in terms of, being one of the first people to come off social media and say, I don't feel safe, I don't feel protected, I won't be here. We've seen a couple of clubs go in that vein. I think it's a good message to show. I do. Again, the difficulty is, already before it started, is how long, what impact will it have? I think it shows a message to the social media companies that the clubs are willing to do it, and I think that's the start of the conversation. There's a hell of a long way to go in the fight against racism and discrimination in general of all forms that happen online, within online abuse. But I think it could be powerful, but it's how long. If social media companies, I believe, they are affected by the numbers, which then affect the money that they make. If they have big accounts dropping like flies across the world, let's say this was a world thing and not just a football thing, loads of big franchises, big clubs dropping out, then that could potentially help. Loads of big celebrities with masses of millions of followers dropping out for long periods. Maybe they would feel it longer than just a few days, but it's a start. So I'm definitely not one to kind of belittle the start of something, because really it needs to be in the conversation, and it needs to go on from there to see how much of an impact it can have and for how long.
Anton, Flex touched on it there, the huge sums of money involved with these social media companies and how much they make. And we saw, didn't we, with the European Super League, how quickly the football family came together to challenge something that they didn't agree with. Could it possibly be more effective then to challenge the advertising companies who use these social media platforms to hit them financially?
Look, it is all about the money. You're exactly right. I'm wearing an Adidas top, I'm talking into a Microsoft computer, and I'm broadcasting on Sky right now. Companies have huge power in this because, let's be brutally honest, you've got to put your money where your mouth is. If you really want to tackle racial hatred, if you really want to tackle this online problem, then you might have to consider a boycott. And companies make money, revenue streams through using social media. It's brutally honest. Individuals do, people do. And I understand it, but if you want to do something, there is an individual cost. There is a cost to take action. A personal cost, a financial cost. We've all got to do our bit to do something about this. And it might inconvenience companies, it might inconvenience people, but something needs to be done because it is too easy to abuse people online. And the ramifications, well, there aren't any really. If you do abuse people online, it's so easy to set up individual ghost accounts. It's easy to just flippantly send a message to someone which absolutely destroys their soul. So, like you said, you've got to hit social media companies in the pocket, and that means mass action, as Flex was saying.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. It is too. We can set up a fake account right this very second while we're talking. Talking of the European Super League, Flex, protests continued over the weekend because Manchester United fans want the Glazers out. I don't know if you were at those protests, but what is the feeling? Yeah. Oh, were you right? Well, what's the feeling like amongst the fans?
One of unity, one of coming together, and one of voices being heard. We was at the protest that took place this weekend at the United Stand. We covered it, and do you know what? It was really refreshing to see. And what was even more refreshing was actually the authorities, the police, the stewards, just stood back. They stood back, and I even spoke to some of the police there, and it was refreshing to see them say, you know what, fans need to have their say. We're not here to antagonise the fans or try and move them on and prevent them having their say. The fans need to be heard, and that's a big thing as well. But back to the owners and with the ESL fast, I mean, especially at Manchester United, I think it's a little bit different at City. It's a little bit different at Spurs and Liverpool, because especially Liverpool and Manchester City, they have a decent relationship with their owners. They've seen them invest in the right way. You look at what the Manchester City owners have done to that side of Manchester, like Gary Neville alluded to. You look at the match day experience on the Etihad campus. You look at what they've invested around that area. It's fantastic. Their situation is not going to be, let's get our owners out. Theirs is, we can't believe our owners made this big mistake, don't do it again. Manchester United fans, we have a completely different relation. We have a non-existent relationship with the Glazers, and enough is enough. And the fans need to be heard. We have another protest coming this week against Liverpool as well before the game, which will be fantastic. And it's been so good to see a unified approach across the fan base. Look, football can always divide opinion with on the pitch matters, but I think the biggest and most powerful thing that's come from this is the unification of the fans.
Good to hear, Flex. Good to hear. Now let's talk about this Premier League Hall of Fame, shall we? There's a special show on Sky Sports Premier League tonight. Fans will be given the chance to vote on who they think should be inducted. Alan Shearer and Thierry Henry are already in there. I'm sure you can't really have any complaints about those, but Flex and Anton, who would you name other than those two from the Premier League era to go into the Hall of Fame? Flex first.
I've got to go with two other Manchester United players. Now, look, Rooney will get in there. I know, but I'm only going in the order of who scored the most goals here, which is what we've got to talk about. Obviously, Rooney is a big one, but I'm actually not going to say Wayne Rooney because he is going to get in there. Wayne Rooney, unbelievable, second all-time scorer of Premier League goals. But Andrew Cole for me, I think he's a player who gets massively overlooked, a player who gets massively, I don't want to say disrespected, but I don't think he gets the flowers he deserves for where he is in that 187 Premier League goals. He's third on the all-time scoring list. And, you know, you asked a lot of the younger kids and some people who maybe just go with the name brand players. Like I said, Wayne Rooney would straight be there. When you're looking at Thierry Henry, Alan Shearer, Aguero is going to get a mention, obviously. There's loads of players who have broken that 100 goal seal as well in excess of 100 goals. But Andrew Cole, I just always feel kind of goes underneath the radar, and I think he needs to get his flowers. So I'd love to see him be third in, because Rooney he's getting in. Like, we don't even need to talk about that. But and Andy Cole for sure. Jess
predicted that. Jess said that you were going to say that, Flex. She was right first thing this morning. She said that at about 4:45 a.m. Anton, who really stands out for you?
I mean, does Flex know there are other positions other than striker? Is he aware of this? I mean, I can't believe a Manchester United supporter has come on and not mentioned Roy Keane. You know, probably arguably the best captain in the Premier League era, 7 Premier League titles, and also his rivalry with Patrick Vieira. Induct them both at the same time. Put them in at the same time and just have more fireworks. I mean, that's what I want to see.
And there are so many players in this, and that's the beauty about this. You're right, it isn't just about strikers. To be fair, it's almost like there's a batch of like name brand players who are the definites. Like if you're doing like you said, a Hall of Fame altogether, you know you're going to get your Roy Keanes, you know you're going to get your Bergkamps, you know you're going to get your Patrick Vieiras, etc., etc. But I don't know, man. Andrew Cole, I just feel he's just too disrespected. People don't put enough respect on his name.
Well, I want Tony Adams in there. I'm going to throw that one in there. I want him in there. I want Sol Campbell. I want Peter Schmeichel. So I've got it at the back as well, like you were wanting. Anton and Flex, you've both been excellent this morning, as expected. Thank you very much indeed for being on the early kickoff with us.
It's been a pleasure to have you both. Coming up next on here at Sky Sports News, we'll have a roundup of the Carabao Cup, where Manchester City won their 4th straight League Cup title, a 30th major trophy for Pep Guardiola as well. More coming next.